booktube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome to my channel, Bouquets and Books. I thought I would do a recent reads video and a plans for April video at the same time. However, I have read very little recently and I don't have that many plans for April. So if I want my video to be more than 2 minutes long, I have to add something else. So I'm going to talk about what I did this weekend. I went book shopping and I binge watched Bridgerton season 2. So I will leave timestamps in the description box below so that you can go straight to the section of this video that interests you the most. What I have been reading recently. I finished only 2 books since my most recent reads video. I think that's it. I finished just 2 books since that video, and I don't want to talk about them in this video because I want to talk about them in a different video. So that leaves me with the books I have not finished, and that includes 2 books that I'm struggling to finish. The first one that I'm struggling to finish is Read Dangerously, The Subversive Power of Literature in Troubled Times by Azar Nafisi. As you can see, this is a library book. I had put it on hold at the library. At some point, I had 11 books on hold in the library, and I was second in the line, or 5th, or 7th, or 9th, or 33rd. And yet they all arrive at the same time. I received 4 books in 3 days, and yeah, it's just too many at the same time. So this is one of the books that I received and that I wanted to read. It's short, it's just 200 pages, and it is about how literature in and of itself is an act of resistance in a way. So the author is probably better known for her book Lolita in Tehran. I have not read that book. And in this book, she writes letters to her father. These are fictional letters because her father died a certain number of years before she wrote this. But she explains a bit why in the beginning book, why she decided to use that form to write her book or her essays, I guess. I am more or less stuck in the middle of the 3rd letter out of 5, I think. So I'm at page 100 and something out of 200. And the reason is I haven't read most of the books that she is talking about. At first I had read the names and I thought, oh yeah, I probably read a bunch of these books. Hurston and Morrison, yes, I read some of these books. Grossman. I thought it was Vasily Grossman, but she's talking about David Grossman, and I've never read any of his books. And then Atwood, Margaret Atwood, and Baldwin, and Coates. So I know these authors, but I haven't read the books she's talking about for some reason. And it's full of spoilers, so that you know, I don't mind. For my part, sometimes I don't mind spoilers. In this case, I don't mind spoilers at all. Some books I will just not read, and some other books, even if I know what happens, I will want to read them. For example, The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison. I haven't read it, but I don't mind knowing what goes on. In fact, for me, having a few spoilers about that book could make the book more interesting. So yeah, so she talks about all various books that are not necessarily books about resistance in and of themselves, but just because they exist and just because people read them, these books are a form of resistance. So, and also a form of subversion, a way to remain independent of mind, so that you don't just think like a sheep. So yeah, it's good, but I'm not that interested in it because I haven't read the book. No, because I haven't read the books she talks about. Yeah. Another one I'm more or less stuck in the middle is Cousin Pons. In the previous recent reads video, I was at page 205, I think, and now I am at page 210. I've read a full 5 pages. So it's not a DNF yet. I want to finish this book. I hope I will finish it in April. I will just give myself a little kick where the back changes its name, and yeah, try to finish it because it's not that bad. It's just there are some parts are a bit tedious, some parts are a bit long, and the way it's written, it's not the most interesting way or the easiest way to read, but it's not entirely bad. The subject is interesting, the characters are interesting, so I should want to finish this book. I want to finish this book, so I will try to finish it, but yeah, it's not going very well. One that is going much better, even though it's going very, very slowly, it is Dante's comedy. I am still inching my way into this book. I've read 7 cantos. 93 left to go. If I finish before the end of the year, great. If I don't, it doesn't matter at all. And the last one that I am sort of in the middle of, though it's much more than the middle now, it's Beethoven, Anguish and Triumph by, no, Triumph and Anguish, no, Anguish and Triumph, I was right the first time, by John Swafford. I am at page, let me see, 788 out of 946. So I have a bit over 150 pages left to read. I have, as of filming this video, 3 days and 1 evening to read this, and I hope I will finish it for the end of March. I hope I will finish it for March of the Mammoth. Yeah, and that is the last one I have. And the reason I hope to finish this Beethoven for before the end of March is that in April, my main plan will be to read for the BookTube prize. The computer did not select me for the first round. It's okay, it happened. So that means that it's almost guaranteed I will be selected for the second round. So my priority in April will be to read as many books as I can from the 6 books that I will have to read for the BookTube prize. So it would be nice to start with a clean slate, non-fiction wise, because I will be reading for the non-fiction division. So it would be nice if in non-fiction I didn't have any ongoing books. As far as other plans go for April, there's one readathon that caught my attention because it's hosted by 2 booktubers I love, Shelley Swearingen and Jack from Spread Book Joy. They are hosting a readathon called Picture This, about picture books, books for children, but that you don't read for children, that you read for yourself. And I don't do that very often. In fact, I never do. So given that it takes about an hour at the most to read a picture book, I will take an hour or 2 out of my month of April to read 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 picture books. And maybe I'll go to the library and explore what they have. So that is the other plan that I have, and it won't take a lot of time. And that is it. That is all the plans I have for April. I saw other readathons that looked interesting going on in April, but I don't think I will participate because I think I will like to have more or less of a free month to read the books for the BookTube prize. And also because there were just too many readathons in March and it's nice to have a little break. So that would be it for my recent reads and my plans for April. So what I did this weekend, I went book shopping. Mainly, as I said, I watched Bridgerton, and that put me in the mood for Regency romance. So I decided to go back to the bookstore, the used bookstore, where I had found a couple of months ago, no, just 1 month ago, where I had found a bunch of Georgette Heyer books, and I decided to go see if the others were still there. And I think all the others were still there, so I decided to buy them all. It's just much easier that way if I already have them all. So I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Georgette Heyer. That will be my nice little collection. So we have Devil's Cub. This title was particularly recommended to me by a commentator. I don't remember which one, sorry, but I know that she said that These Old Shades was one of her favorite and that this one was connected in a way. So I'm very happy to have this one. I also have The Foundling. And Wallet, I think this one is not a Regency romance. That one is set in Tudor times under Queen Elizabeth I. I think it's this one. There's The Masqueraders and Powder and Patch. So I say they're a Regency romance. It might not be strictly Regency, it might be historical romance, but I'm sure it's going to be great. And I didn't read the summary at the back very much. I had done that the first time when I had selected just 4 books out of the little pile that they had. And this time I just decided to buy the lot. And while I was there, I also looked for a mystery by Elizabeth George, because she is one of the authors that I said at the beginning of the year that I would like to try before the end of the year. So this is A Banquet of Consequences. And once again, I did not read what the summary was at the back because I don't really care. I just want to try that author. So I just picked a book that was in good condition, which is one of my main criteria when I'm shopping in secondhand bookstores. And this one almost looks like new. It has been read, there's a mark there, but beyond that, it looks new, so that's good for me. And well, after I had chosen all these books, I went to the cash register, and it happens that just in front of the cash register, there's a shelf with the newer books, and there's one that caught my attention. It's strictly a booktube by, well, not strictly, but it's very much influenced by booktube because that book is all over booktube. It is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. And that book is just brand new. It looks like it has never been read, and yet there it is at $13.95 instead of $23.99. So $10 saved for me, yay! So that book has been all over booktube because it was selected, I think it's for the Women's Prize, and yeah, it was longlisted for a bunch of awards, so it's very popular on booktube, and I want to read that one, so I bought that. So that is the end of my book haul. Now, the other thing I did this weekend was binge watch season 2 of Bridgerton on Netflix. I will not reveal anything, so no spoilers ahead, just a few general impressions. If you loved the first season and thought it was just perfect, you will be disappointed by the second season because it has a very different tone. Well, not very different, but a somewhat different tone. But if you thought that the first season was just too much, you will like the second season because it's less of too much than it was. It's still completely over the top. Don't expect something like the Pride and Prejudice adaptation of the BBC in the 1990s. Absolutely not. It's still very much Bridgerton in tone, but it is somewhat subdued. The first season, I didn't like it that much. I thought it was all over the place. There were too many plot lines, in my opinions, too many things going on, and also I thought they hadn't quite figured out who their public was. Some of the plot lines were definitely young adults. For example, the classic love triangle where Daphne had to choose between her head, the prince, or her heart, the duke. So that is typical young adult stuff. All the things about these teenagers not knowing how babies are made, that was also typical young adult stuff. Oh, and Eloise being given the mission by the queen to figure out who Lady Whistledown is. That is typical young adult stuff. A teenager given a job that adults cannot do. Yeah, so for that, it was young adult. But at the same time, there were all those sex scenes which made it almost soft porn. So that is not young adult. That is not family entertainment. So I was really wondering in the first season, who is their public? Who do they think they are talking to? And in the second season, they have decided that they are talking much more to a younger public, I would say. Well, not a younger public. No, they are talking to me. They are talking to me. So I'm not necessarily a younger public, but they have toned down the young adult themes, and they also toned down the porn, the sex scenes. There are a lot less. There is still nudity. There are, I think, no, just one explicit sex scene, well, explicit, it's not XXX, but the one that is kind of the equivalent of what we had seen in season 1. So for that, it is much more watchable in family. It's still not for young viewers. I don't think under 12 years old would like it, and perhaps even under 14. The sex scene might be a bit, but in general, it's much more family entertainment. And also, the plot lines have been reduced. There are only 3 main plot lines, I would say. Obviously, Anthony's story, who is looking for a bride, and then once again, it's a love triangle. But this love triangle is much more about relations between sisters and family responsibilities. What happens when one of the parents dies, and it's one of the, well, generally the eldest child who takes responsibility for their brothers and sisters. I thought that was very, very interesting. And I thought there was a lot of chemistry between the 2 main actors, the male lead and the female lead. And even I will say that I preferred much more the actress playing Kate this season than the actress playing Daphne last season. I really, really love that actress. I loved, she has a lot of presence, a lot of charisma, so I really liked everything that had to do with that storyline. The other storyline still going on is the mystery about who is Lady Whistledown, and Eloise making her debut in society, her first season while being obsessed with Lady Whistledown and women's rights, so that is also very good. And we also have the Featheringtons with their money problems. It's still there. So these are the three main storylines. We also have a bit of Benedict going to art school or wanting to go to art school, and just one thing about Colin and Miss Thompson. It's very, very short, and that's basically it. So it's much more concentrated this season, I should say. And on the whole, I preferred the second season because it was more put together. It was less all over the place. Of course, there was perhaps a bit, dare I call it, a pacing problem. At the end of episode 6, I thought, well, that's it. They have only material for barely one episode, but they managed to stretch it for 2. So I thought they were perhaps étirer la sauce, as we say in French, so sort of diluting the sauce, making it last a bit longer than it should have, because they needed to have 8 episodes, and they sort of stretched the story so that it lasted 8 episodes. And by that point, everybody's true feelings have been recognized, so it should be easy to find the solution to the problem. But no, the protagonists keep stumbling on obstacles that they create themselves, so it's kind of illogical at that point. But who cares? It is absolutely, completely, totally feel-good TV. If you like that sort of story, of course. If you can't stand it, then it's just a whole lot of frustration. But if you like that sort of story, it's just absolutely delightful. It's super fun, and I really, really liked it. So that is it for me today. If you've seen Bridgerton season 2, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. I'm curious to see that. And I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine!